Yeah.
Kia ora everyone, welcome back to a new reading vlog. It's Monday the 3rd of October and we are in the throes of the second week of Jessica's Tiny Book Challenge. If you don't know what the Tiny Book Challenge is, it's basically a week, 2 weeks this time actually, where you see how many tiny books you can read. Now the definition of tiny book is loosely applied for some people. I like to mostly keep it under 100 pages. This time around I didn't have as many books that would fit in that kind of category of 100 pages or less. So I have branched out and picked books that are still small but are over 100 pages. Some of them are under. Yeah, it's the second week and we've got 7 more days to go, so I thought I would vlog this week for you so that you can come along with me on my tiny adventure. I'm going to show you the stack of books that I have to choose from. Obviously I'm not going to read all these books, but this is what I've got to play with. I've also read a few already, so I'm going to show you those, and then I'm also in the middle of one, so we'll talk about those quickly as well. Let's do the books in the stack first. So I'm just going to go through them very quickly. First up we have Little Labours by Rivka Galchen. Sempre Susan by Sigrid Nunez, a memoir about Susan Sontag. Agua Viva by Clarice Lispector. Lost Cat by Mary Gateskill. The Road to the City by Natalia Ginsberg. Ongoingness by Sarah Manguso. Sorry, that's really shiny. Happening by Annie Ernaux. Strange Hotel by Armin McBride. The Water Statue by Fleur Jaggi. Welcome to America by Linda Bostrom-Knausgaard. Recitative by Toni Morrison. Wool Gathering by Patti Smith. Nostalgia Has Ruined My Life by Zarah Butcher-McGunnigle. And A Small Place by Jamaica Kincaid. So, those are the books that we will be choosing from for the rest of the week. I'm going to quickly talk about, very quickly, some of the books that I've already read, and yeah, then we will get on with our day. The first one that I read is kind of a cheat. It's the book that I read at the end of my last vlog for Julie's Blurb Telephone Challenge, and that's An Apprenticeship or The Book of Pleasures by Clarice Lispector. Totally counts as a tiny. It's 150 pages. Really, really good book. I guess if you want to hear me talk about it more, you can go watch that vlog. But in a nutshell, it's kind of a love story, but in a very existential writing style, which is very Clarice Lispector. Follows this character Laurie, who has met this man Ulysses, and he is a philosopher. He is trying to teach her how to love and how to exist in the world in ways that she hasn't been able to before. It's very thought-provoking. It's very frustrating to read at times, but very insightful, and I love when Clarice kind of poses these huge life questions to you and you kind of have a bit of a freak out moment and wonder about everything. That's what this book does to you. So that was the first one. Second one was Paradise Rock by Hval. This was great. I really liked this book. Very atmospheric, very damp and wet. Can relate at the moment to the Auckland weather. Definitely a book about body and the ideas around different types of shelters and protections that we put in place in order to make ourselves comfortable. I loved how alive the setting in this book felt. Everything felt like it was kind of just like constantly humming or beating. Yeah, it's very, very good. The next book was Signs Preceding the End of the World by Yuri Herrera. Another fantastic book. Oh, it's been so good this week, honestly. It's a story about immigration, particularly illegal immigration from Mexico through to the US. Our main narrator has been given the task of crossing the border to deliver a message to her brother who has made this trip years before. It's about that journey, what it looks like. It's obviously speaking on a lot of really important political issues that are very relevant to today. Very dreamlike quality to it. Almost nightmarish in some parts, but not in the sense that like horrific things are happening. It's like a weird undertone of menace. Very, very good. Loved the use of language. The translator note in the back is superb. It adds to a lot of the thought of the book and how she's translated it, and I always really enjoy reading those kinds of things in translated text. So another great tiny. And the last one, again, I read this book throughout September, so it doesn't really count as a tiny, but I'm counting it. It is Bless the Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head by Warsan Shire. I read this for Katie James's book club. It was the pick for September. We actually had the book club chat yesterday, and it was, again, great. I will not shut up about how good this book club is. It's so fun being able to get together at the end of the month, beginning of the month, and talk about a book, pull different ideas from it, hear what other people had to say. Yesterday's conversation was really just so thoughtful and insightful, and I love it. This collection of poetry, though, is about refugee experience. Warsan Shire is from Nairobi, I believe. Yeah, born in Nairobi but raised in London. So she's a Somali-British writer. She fuses together those two cultures, opposing cultures in a lot of ways, and presents it in this collection as her. This is a really accurate representation of what it's like for her growing up and the different influences she's had from both sides. It definitely felt familiar in a lot of ways when it comes to identity and themes of belonging and what it feels like to be displaced. I loved it, recommend highly, and thanks to Katie for putting it on our radar. We all talked about it yesterday. I didn't even know about this collection, and I probably wouldn't have picked it up if not for the book club. So okay, so those are the tinies that I've read so far. 4. I mean, not a huge amount, but good. Like, I'm happy because it's like banger, 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 banger. It's so good. Okay, and then I am in the middle of The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. I think I will share some thoughts later on in the day because I gotta go, but I'm about 50 pages off finishing. I could potentially finish it today while I'm at work. I have been listening to it on audio as well, which has helped because I do enjoy listening to Maggie Nelson. It feels a little bit like I'm in a lecture. She's teaching me something. But yeah, I need to think about this one because it's definitely challenging me. That's what I'll say. It's challenging me, and I need to think about why that makes me not uncomfortable, but why I'm finding that a bit difficult, I think. Okay, so Tiny's week has started. I guess I need to start thinking about what I want to read next. I think either The Happening by Annie Ernaux, or A Small Place by Jamaica Kincaid, or so many books everywhere. Little Labours by Rivka Galchen, or Sempre by Sigrid Nunez. Either of those would be great. In fact, I feel like these are the 4 I'm going to try and focus on this week for ease sake. And I kind of want to read this because she's a New Zealand writer, and I have another book of hers from the library, so maybe I could do a twofer. Okay. That feels like a lot, but they're really small, so how hard can it be? Let us go forth and read all the tinies that we can this week. Kia ora. We have some things to catch up on. I've got book mail, I've got a bit of other exciting packages to show you, and then I've got this to chat to you about. Naz is in a diggy mood, so I'll just hide some stuff from him so he doesn't try to bite it. Maybe let's chat about this first. I don't know how this is going to go because honestly I don't know what I think about this book other than it is frustrating me. Not for what it is, but more, well, I guess in part because of what it is, but more my response to it and how it's making me feel, which is like I'm missing something. It's making me feel like I'm not smart enough, basically. I mentioned really quickly earlier that this book is like challenging me in ways that I was making me feel a bit uncomfortable. And I mean in the sense that, like, I think I'm a smart person, and I think I'm able to grasp ideas relatively well, but a lot of this is kind of going a bit just over my head. It's like scraping the top of my head and then going past me. Hey, what's that? I have so many questions and I want to be able to put my hand up and ask those questions, but I can't. I'm listening to this on audio as well, which I think is part of why I feel like I want to like put my hand up. It feels like I'm being lectured to in a good way. I feel as though there's not much room for me to stop and think about things. Perhaps I'm trying to rush through it too much. Maybe it's not a book that I should be reading in a tiny book challenge where I am trying to read quite quickly. For anyone that doesn't know, this is Maggie Nelson's memoir, told in a very different kind of way. She weaves her own personal story with a lot of queer theory, a lot of art, a lot of philosophical references to thinkers, philosophers, very smart stuff that I appreciate and respect, but there's a lot of it. I'm learning a lot though, and I am glad to be reading it. I definitely feel like it's something that I'm going to have to come back to at some other point and take my time with. I will share my final thoughts on it once I'm finished, which will probably be later on tonight. Let's open some book mail. This is from HarperCollins. Yes, it's The Book of Goose by Yuri, and I'm very excited about this. I listened to a podcast, I can't remember which one it was now. It's about childhood friends, very kind of Ferrante-esque, but set in a much more historical setting, and it's set in France as well. So yeah, those themes of childhood friendship. It feels like it might be a little bit more plotty as well, but I'm excited about getting into this one. So thank you HarperCollins New Zealand for sending me that. I really appreciate it. And then I also picked up a tripod, which I ordered when I got my new camera, but it only just came in today, so I went and got that. I'm gonna unbox it. Ooh. It's a What is that? Oh, it's like a little bag that I can put it in. How neat. Oh, that's a battery. I have a tripod, but I felt like the need for a new one. So I got this. It has a little remote on it as well. So you can like record, take a photo. It's like a little selfie stick thing. Yeah, that's all I've got to update you on so far. I think I'm going to finish Argonauts tonight and then pick up something new. What that will be, do not know. I finished the Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. I would say overall I did enjoy this book, but I didn't at the same time because it kind of made me feel uncomfortable and challenged me and myself. It wasn't any kind of content in the book that directly made me feel uncomfortable. It was more my interaction with it and perhaps what I wasn't getting from it that was, I don't know, pushing me in ways that I don't necessarily love, but at the same time I do. Like, I love to be challenged when it comes to reading and talking about books with people. It's definitely a book that if you're going to read it, take your time with it. Don't try to rush it like I did. This is definitely far too thoughtful to try to rush that process of thought. This definitely feels like a book that I will come back to. Like, I'm not done with this book. I do, however, think the last kind of 30 pages so powerful. Like, I've never read something that speaks about life and death with such... It felt very moving while I was reading that last part of the book, and yeah, I really, really got a lot from that last part. I've been chatting with Ben Green about this morning because, well, we were supposed to be buddy reading it, but I sped through it. But I did say to him, like, please keep sending me your messages. Like, I don't want you to think just because I'm done with the book that I don't want to hear about it. Like, it's obviously made an impression, and well, I think the reason why you read books with other people is to discuss them and to gain a different perspective perhaps to your own, to maybe have some thoughts that you didn't think about while you were reading pop up. So yeah, I hope that he does keep sending me messages as he reads through it, because I want to keep thinking about it. I think after that I want something, I don't even know. I feel like that one might need one sitting, so I can't really do that while I'm at work today. I don't know. This feels so hard. I think I want to read this one. I think I'm going to go with Sempre by Sigrid Nunez. I know I love Sigrid's writing, so I think this will be an interesting look at their relationship. Susan Sontag is Sigrid Nunez's mother-in-law. Was at some point. This is the next book that we're going to read in the Tinies week, and we're going to try to act a little bit human after reading the Argonauts. Morning. It is so cold here today. It snowed in Wellington last night. It's also October, which I guess if you're not living in the southern hemisphere you don't get it, but it's supposed to be spring. I feel like this reading vlog this week has been pretty terrible, just being honest. I am reading, but I've kind of slowed down. So I started Sempre by Sigrid Nunez, biography memoir about Susan Sontag, written from the perspective of her daughter-in-law. Not very far in. It's okay. I was excited for the writing in this one, but I would say it's not really about the writing. It's more about building this character of who, or this idea of who Susan Sontag was as a person, as a writer, as a mother, as a friend. And so Sigrid's close relationship has allowed for her to write this. She's quite a non-conforming person who felt as though she always wanted to go against societal norms and expectations, and always wanted to be quite challenging. Just like slowly making my way through that. It doesn't feel like something that I'm wanting to speed through, so I'm just reading that in my own time. And then I started Nostalgia Has Ruined My Life by Zarah Butcher-McGunnigle. This is a very fragmentary, I think it might potentially be like autofiction. It feels like it could be based on Zarah Butcher-McGunnigle's life, but I don't really know much about her, so I'm going to have to do a bit of research. But it's, yeah, fragmentary, almost like really small diary entries of this young woman's day. She is young, unemployed, single, and depressed. And she is writing, entering in random thoughts or happenstances of her life, things that she does, all very sometimes banal. It's quite funny. It's got that really good dark comedy that I quite like. Very self-effacing, self-deprecating. So I'm liking that. It's a good kind of easy one to pick up and put down at the moment. This tiny book challenge is not going to be like a smash it out the park. It's just about cruising this week. This is definitely becoming something that I do every week on a Thursday. Kia ora, morena, atamari, happy Friday. Yay. The battery. Hold on. Okay, we're back in action. I realised that this week I have been pretty terrible at updating you on what I'm reading, but everything's kind of been like chopping and changing, and I've been starting books and then putting them down and then starting other books and finishing those and then picking up other books, so it's been a bit of a week. But I did finish a book last night. I finished Nostalgia Has Ruined My Life by Zarah Butcher-McGunnigle. I really loved this book. I thought it was darkly funny, my favourite kind of humour. And yeah, I really liked the narrator. I often can find myself getting a bit tired of the DWM narrator, but I don't know what it was about this one that I enjoyed so much. So the book is made up of really fragmentary, almost journal-like passages from this young, depressed woman who suffers from a disability, and she's at a point where she's kind of trying to participate in life but doesn't know how. She's trying to become employed but doesn't really want to. Is dealing with all of this while dating horrible people and living with flatmates that don't seem to understand that she has this disability, and it does mean that she physically cannot do certain things, and they're kind of trying to tell her to like pull herself up by her bootstraps and just like get stuck in. But yeah, it's really good. I am going to pass it on to my friend Melanie, who lives in New York, so I'm going to take that to work today so I can ship it to her. I did start Little Labours last night. I started listening to it on audio. I got an audio book of it off through Libby, which I completely forget that you can get audiobooks through the library. Yeah, it's an interesting little essay collection, I would say, on motherhood, particularly Rivka Galchen's experience of motherhood herself. She is talking a lot in this book about her new baby and different experiences that she's had, thoughts that the baby, which she calls a little puma, different ways that this new kind of creature has made her think about certain things in life. I'm like 45 pages in. It's like very baby heavy though. And I've just woken up this morning to find that Annie Ernaux has won the Nobel Prize for Literature. So I think it's time to read this. I was going to read this week, but I think maybe starting this today is a good idea. So yeah, that's the roster today. That's what's going on. See you later.
No.
Saturday. Got lots of plans today. Well, a few plans. This morning we're taking Mars to get his first groom. He's going to have a bath and he's going to hate it. But yeah, he needs a tidy up. He's looking scruffy. So we're going to go do that. And then I'm going to go to a book fair while Rupert and Mars go for a walk at the beach. Yeah, there's a big book fair over on the shore today, so I'm going to go to that, hopefully find some goodies. And I finished Little Labours just now, and I thought it was just okay. It's a collection of essays written by Rivka Galchen after she's had a baby, and there are different musings on the way having a baby has like changed her perception on certain things. Babies in literature. I guess a little bit on motherhood and what that is like. I found the writing to be a bit that like purposely convoluted in order to be like very specific. I find that quite irritating. I'm just like, get to the point. You don't need to write that way. I don't know if I can find an example. And then the second to last essay kind of annoyed me about her trying to get a passport for her baby. And like they go through the process of all the paperwork and they feel like they have everything they need, and then the photos don't work and they run around trying to get all the photos, and they need this passport for like a work trip that she's taking, and then in the end they just kind of like argue their way across the border with the baby into Canada. And I'm just like, that would never happen to like some people would just be like refused. I just found that quite bizarre, and yeah, a little bit kind of out of touch as to what it would be like, say, if someone of colour was trying to do that, but you wouldn't even attempt to do that if you were a person of colour, because you know that it's just like not going to happen. So the privilege, that just so ignorant. I just thought it was okay. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I'm going to start the happening today, not the happening, by Annie Ernaux, which I'm excited to start because I've heard nothing but good things about this. Okay. Zelda.
Sorry.
Ruth and I just went and had a glass of wine at a little bar around the corner. We took Mars with us, and before that we went to the park and just let him run around. And it was really good. The bar that we went to is very dog friendly, so we will probably be frequenting it a lot during summer. I thought I would show you quickly some of the books that I bought today, because I bought books. Obviously I went to a book fair and it was really good. There wasn't a lot left because yesterday was the first day, but yeah, I'm happy with what I got. I got 8 books. I got 8 books. And then I got a few others from a few other places. I did share this on my Instagram, so if you're seeing this twice. Okay, first I got The High Window by Raymond Chandler. Then I got Annie Dillard's For the Time Being, which I think is like philosophical writing, maybe essays. Anita Bruckner's Family and Friends. I think I spoke about this last time I went to a book fair. She's just one of those writers that I like auto-buy for no reason. Portuguese by Patricia Grace. She is a New Zealand Māori writer. She wrote a lot of children's books that I grew up with, but she's also a really amazing short story writer and weaves a lot of Māori myth and legend into her fiction. So, The Golden Notebook by Doris Lessing. This one is like not only massive, it's like over 500 pages, but the type is tiny, so I'm kind of excited to get into some bigger books shortly. I feel like I need to. I picked up Naked by David Sedaris. This is one of his memoirs that I don't own. The Passion by Jeanette Winterson. Very 90s looking cover there. And then the last book that I picked up from the book fair is The End of the Earth by Jonathan Franzen, which I believe is an essay collection. So that's everything I picked up from the book fair. I feel like this is at a weird angle. It's a bit better. So while Mars was being groomed, Rupert and I had breakfast in the little shops where he was being groomed, and then we also popped into a bookshop afterwards, and I picked up both of Tay Tibble's poetry collections. This is her first one, and this is her most recent one. And I think she signed a deal with Riverhead to have them published in America, so that's awesome. If you are interested in contemporary Māori poetry, it's in English, but from a Māori poet, check her out. So I picked up those two, and then I took a bunch of books to a secondhand bookshop to sell because I had a bunch built up from just like months of reading things and then getting rid of things and not wanting to read things anymore. So I took those in, I got a credit, and then I visited a couple of my other favourite bookshops today, and I realised I had a voucher or a free little thing from my stamp card to get a book, and I was about to leave because I was like, oh, there's nothing here that I overly want, and then I saw this, The Red Parts by Maggie Nelson. You'll know from this vlog that I was reading the Argonauts and how thought-provoking reading that has been for me, and yeah, it's definitely not put me off her writing further. I just think it's made me more intrigued by her. And a lot of people said try this because it is, I think, the novel she wrote, or the story she wrote before Jane, and it's about the murder of her auntie. And yeah, people said it almost reads like a true crime story, so investigative journalism type thing. So I was stoked to get that. I had exactly $29 and this is $29, so that worked out well. That's all my books that I bought today. honestly, that one glass of wine straight to my head. I'm going to have a cup of tea and then I'm going to start reading Happening by Ernaux. And I'll check in with you when I finish with it later on in a couple of hours maybe. It's the last day of Tiny's today and I have some reading to do. Last night I finished Happening by Ernaux. Whew, it was pretty heavy and intense in some parts. Absolutely just blows my mind how she managed to write about something so I know, Maz, is amazing, isn't it? Something so traumatizing in such a detailed and matter-of-fact way. It feels as though with that kind of time and space from that event, she's been able to remove most of the emotion from it, but still write about it in a way that makes you feel as though it was an extremely hard time in her life and a thing for her to go through in such a just lonely way. It just, no one was really willing to help her all that much. And yeah, just some of those scenes that she described, just absolutely horrific. Really, really loved this. My first Annie Ernaux. What should I read next from her? Okay, so last up we have A Small Place, which I want to start today. It's really short, and I have it on audio from Libby. It's 81 pages. So I'm thinking if I sit down after lunch, I read that. That would be good. And I'm still making my way through the Susan Sontag memoir. Yeah, it's good. It's just I need to sit down and dedicate some time to it. So I think I might read this now before lunch to try to get like halfway and then start this, finish this, and then go back to reading this in the afternoon. So I think this is doable. I think I'm gonna make it. I think I'm gonna finish everything that I wanted. I will check in later on when I have some more thoughts about more books. Oh, my hair looks crazy. I just painted my nails, so I need to try not to touch too many things. I just finished A Small Place by Jamaica Kincaid and freaking loved this. It was a quick read. I think I read it in less than like 2 hours. Quite humorous telling of the history of Antigua, or told to the perspective of the reader as if you were a tourist visiting Antigua, and the things that you might wonder but nobody ever does about this place, and where things have come from and how industries have built up and why certain places are left dilapidated, why the library hasn't been rebuilt since the earthquake in like 1930 something. I might be getting that date wrong. A history of a country that people probably don't know enough about, and just told in a really honest and kind of, there's a certain kind of sardonic tone to it that just is frustrating. You can tell that there's a lot of frustration behind it and behind Jamaica Kincaid's writing of it. I thought it was really interesting the way that she linked or made comparisons to like modern day tourism being a similar kind of act of slaves being brought to Antigua. Comparisons she's made to those two, and the last little chapter was just like paints this really beautiful picture of this country and this island, and what it was before anyone settled there and how that sort of remains the same. A really, really great read, and yeah, I loved it so much. I gave it 5 stars because I thought it was that good. So a fun little book. Still going with Sempre Susan. I'm gonna try and read some more of it now and then see how we get on. Good morning, Morena. It is Monday. Sadly, I did not finish this last night. I got almost halfway. It's good. I just don't know whether it's something that, like, I want to try to rush. It's definitely more, it's like anecdotal moments between Susan and Sigrid, and it's just not something that I feel like I want to ingest in like one go. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep reading that in my own time, in my own pace, and wrap up this reading vlog, this little tiny challenge week. But I would say I'm done. Like, I'm finished for this challenge now. I feel really good about it. I read all these books. I read 2, 4, 6, 8. I read 9 because I have one that's been shipping to a friend. So I read 9 books, which I feel really good about. I feel like I could have read a lot more for sure, but I really wanted to focus on like books that I had been looking forward to reading. Quality over quantity this time, even though the whole point of the challenge is to see how many books you can read. But I mean, 9 books in 2 weeks, that's pretty amazing. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Ka kite.